Donald Trump is going to be a great president and he's going to do great things for our country, but he cannot stop what is coming. The die is cast. All the problems of the last few years are going to continue. It's not like there's a magic date of January 20th, everything is going to change because we have years and years of abuses of our financial system with which to reconcile. And this unfortunate man is going to get the consequences of all that. We are so lucky that he's going to be the president. A lot of it's going to be financial. And of course, whether you like Donald Trump or you don't like Donald Trump, he is a phenomenal financial guy. He understands debt. He understands borrowing. He understands interest rates like probably very few in the world. So he's going to be one of the best presidents we possibly can. But we're going to have some problems. So I want to elucidate some of the problems. Let's talk about what's going on. Let's talk about the Doge. We're going to talk about what the consequences are going to be for that. And we're going to talk about interest rates. We're going to talk about what's going on in my asset class of housing. And of course, what's going on in the general economy, because it's all coming to a head. It's been held off by this massive borrowing and spending by the government at recessionary levels. I mean, almost depressionary levels. They're just putting up just so much cash. They've distorted all the data. I've mentioned this several times in my videos. It's very difficult to get good data as to what the data really is, particularly when it comes to employment and manufacturing and the GDP, because, the GDP is a function of government spending as well as government and private enterprise. So when you have a government that's spending at a deficit of 5 or 6% and the GDP is only 3%, that means it's actually a -3 and you got a +6 government spending, and it raises it to a +3. I mean, that's just negative numbers with positive numbers. But take away that government spending, we would be in a big world of hurt. So lots of distortions, and President Trump is going to get that. We are so lucky that he is going to be in charge of this. Let's just go on to my very next slide, and let's just talk about what we see here. So just this weekend, you have to understand that he is a businessman, a worldwide businessman. People have come from around the world to meet this man. And the Italian Prime Minister Meloni came to Mar-a-Lago this last Saturday, talked to President-elect Donald Trump as to what they can do. And they were talking about electronics and how we can integrate Italy with the U.S. And of course, there is no question about it that Donald Trump is USA first. And he's talking about getting Starlink for Italy for a $1.6 billion telecom. That brings it back here to the U.S. It gets made here. It gets done here. It's U.S. technology. And this is going to be a very, very good thing. You are going to see this happen all across the globe, is that Donald Trump is going to sell America. There is no question about that. It's going to take some time. We've got a lot of things. Let me go to my very first things. Let's just talk about some of the ramifications of Doge. Now, we have in the last 4 years added 2 million additional government workers. And I think we all know that government workers aren't always the very best use of our dollars. And government workers sometimes, there's some terrible stories about them not even coming to work and getting paid. We have a lot of political corruption. So I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But we're talking about the fact that we're going to probably get rid of about 3 million government jobs. Let me go to my next slide here, and let's just talk about that, because this is on par to be done. So, even in the news, even in mainstream media, they're talking about federal workers who don't return to office are going to be dismissed. Well, they're talking upwards of 3 million workers that are going to be dismissed, and they're going to disrupt the Washington metro and start closing down whole departments and moving around the country. I think it's a great idea. Why would we take all these key government jobs and leave them in Washington? We can move them to Kansas or Oklahoma or Missouri or some areas that really could use some development, and let's bring the jobs out there. I think that's a great idea, and kind of refresh the idea. But what do you think is going to happen when we take 3 million people out of work? What's going to happen? Now, ultimately, it's going to be a very, very good thing. But in the short run, 3 million jobs? Just think, 3 million people no longer working. Now, this is just a secondary. What if you send 10 million people back to their homelands and get rid of all these people who are here, who are spending? Yes, they're spending government money. They get these cards and they get $1,000 or $3,000 or $4,000, $6,000 a month to go out and spend. That puts our money into our economy. Let's say we remove 3 million federal workers, 5 or 10 million illegal workers, take them out of our economy. What do you suppose is going to happen to the economy? The economy is going to slow down radically. Now, in the long run, it's going to be a very good thing, but in the short run, it's going to be a major shock to the system. Let me go to my next. So this, if you've been following my work, you know this, it follows right along with our timing model. Now, we are in a world of debt. Pardon me. The U.S. government, of course, has more debt than anyone else. We're a debtor nation, and we're going to talk about that. And of course, once you start spending, and it's fun when you're spending. Just think of your kids when they get their very first credit card. You know, when I was in college, I mean, everybody in my dorm got a credit card, and most of the people in the dorm, they went out and maxed it out within like a week or two. The local economy just loved that. Thought it was great, but it really, once they've spent it, it's gone. So now here they are, and things that they would normally spend money, they can't, because what are they doing? They are paying back the debt. Look at the debt we have. Look at the debt. Look at this. $35 trillion and climbing. Look at the axis this is going. Look at how this took off. Look at this. This is just a travesty. Here in, where are we? Right around 2000, we got about a little over $4 trillion in debt. 20 years later, we got $35 trillion in debt. Over $1 trillion in repayment. Are we nuts? How is this even possible that we can get ourselves into this kind of trouble? But yet we are. So now we're going to take people out of work. We're going to remove people in our economy that are spending. Now, of course, they're taking money. So, you know, they're taking money. This is where all that debt is going. We have 5 or 10 or 15 million, immigrants that are here that are on the government dole, and they're getting, you know, I'm hearing $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month, and they're out spending that. So that's a big boost to the economy. And once that's removed, we're gonna go down on the other side of my title. So let me just go to the next slide. I don't want to make this too terribly long. It's going to be about 20, 25 minutes, I'm sure. Now, it's not just the federal debt. We've got $99.7 trillion in total debt. So 35 for the U.S. government. But we've got another $65 trillion in government and state government, county debt, and yours and my debt. We have phenomenal debt. And of course, you know, the debt service on this is onerous. We're at 29% return, you know, for credit cards. This is crazy stuff. Let me go to my next slide, see if I have that. Yeah, look at this. So what's happening? This is the natural course of things. Now, I'm talking the fact that I think that we are going to have a great financial crisis on steroids. People are going to lose their houses. They're going to lose their jobs. They're going to lose their cars. They're going to lose their skidoos, their 4x4s, their ATVs. They're going to spend their 401ks and their IRAs. They're going to spend everything. We're already seeing that because they maxed out their credit cards at 29% interest. And now what do you do when you can't do it? You default. So look at this. This is where we're at. Now, again, we're already here, which is max goes all the way back to the record in 2010. But I'm going to tell you, it starts and it builds like this. Let me just go. You probably can't see this. So it starts and builds like this. So here we are in 2008. 2009 was even worse. Now, again, this is where the 2008, this is where recession starts, but people are trying to hang on. So it's a lagging effect. And here we go. We got up to over 50% default rate. And here we are. We're at like 46% defaults. Look at this. This is terrible. It's going to get worse because we're only here. It's going to go here. So we're going to set a record of default card defaults coming very, very shortly. So that means that's going to impact the banks. Banks, do you understand that? These are the savings loans. This is where all the money's at. They are going to have problems with just defaulting on the credit cards happening already. We're already talking about credit card defaults. We're talking about commercial real estate defaults, which is going to be there's like $2 trillion coming up for refinance in the next year and a half. Now, these are lagging effects. If you don't have to refinance, you're just on easy street. But the moment you refinance from a 3.5% or 4% loan to an 8% loan, 7.5%, well, now that project you have is no longer viable, and you default it. Now, who gets that? And oftentimes, when we talk about this infinite returns, you refinance the investor's money out of the project to a higher rate, right? A higher mortgage amount. And now the risk has been transferred from the investors to the lender, and the investors get all the original money out. Now, investors lose all the profit afterwards when they default, but they've got their money, and the risk goes to the lenders. Well, let's parse this. We've got credit card debt. President Trump can't do anything about this. This is already done. And we've got commercial real estate debt of $2 trillion that's going to be rolling over the next 2 years. Trump can't do anything about that either. And when they come, they are going to destabilize the banks. It's going to be very, very difficult times. Banks are going to be selling off assets like crazy. So I'm telling you, we've got deals coming. When these banks have to get these things off their books because they need to get whatever cash they can for these places. Now, they're going to be willing to take losses. We're already seeing this in commercial. We're losing 20, 30%, some places 70, 80%, depending on what the property is, of course. The really good ones are going to take less of a loss than the really bad ones, but they're all going to take a loss, and the lenders are going to take that. So they're going to start defaulting on credit cards. They're going to start defaulting on commercial loans. Next thing is housing, my friends. And this is going to make terrible, terrible things. People are going to lose their houses. They're going to lose their families. It's going to cause strife. You're going to see divorces go up. You're going to see lots of marital strife. You're going to see abuses, alcoholism, because this is what happened in the GFC. It's going to be on steroids. It's going to be terrible. Now, if you're prepared and you expect this coming, you're going to make a lot of money, which is where we are. This is what Warren Buffett is waiting for. He's just licking his chops. He's got like $350 billion, some crazy amount of money, and he's going to deploy it when it's right. We have been doing this. I've been telling you this since 2022 that this is coming. Get ready, because it's coming, and we're going to start making a lot of money. We're going to help these people who have their homes and they're going to lose them. We're going to buy them from them. We're going to buy them at a great discount. Let me go to my next slide. Let's just talk about what else I say. I'm trying not to make this too terribly long. Now, look we're talking about credit card is at record highs. We're talking. I'm hearing anywhere from 24 to 29% for interest rates on credit cards. And look at this. Now, this has been a problem with our statistics. Who do you trust? Literally, who do you trust? It has been this seasonally adjusted stuff is just baloney. When they say, well, we're going to adjust it because it shouldn't be this bad, and we're going to increase the amounts. We're going to change the statistics so it doesn't look so bad. This is what we've been running across. We just found out that there were 850,000 people actually lost their jobs, not 1.2 million of new jobs, but it turned out not only 1.2 million is ghost. There's 850,000 jobs that were lost. So over 2 million job differential. This is bad statistics. And look at what we're getting. Let me open this up a little bit so you can see. This is Chicago PMI. Just awful. This is like at depressionary levels. This is just terrible. So the PMI is down here around 36. See if I can open it up even more. Just terrible. Just like falling off a cliff. This is Chicago, one of the great manufacturing districts in the United States. Great transportation, great workforce, and business is just deteriorating like mad. Now, this is a national figure, but look at this. You see this SA that's seasonally adjusted. Total month over month, seasonally adjusted. This is the government seasonally adjusted, but look at even seasonally adjusted. They cannot hide the fact that we're back to June of 2024 for worse manufacturing. And it just deteriorates from there. This is a terrible, terrible problem. Now, the durable goods orders is even worse. It's down to the second worst since the great financial crisis. Look at this. This is since COVID. This is just terrible. And this is what we're seeing. So you cannot hide this. You can't hide this. So we've got credit cards going bad. We've got commercial loans going bad. We've got employment that we have a 2 million job delta here. And you can see that manufacturing and PMIs are dropping like a rock. And this is what Donald Trump is being left with. They're going to blame this guy. It's not his fault. This is coming to him. Now, thank goodness he's going to know what to do with this, because he economically understands this stuff. When you start talking about defaults, and that's what we're talking about, deflation. So when you talk to us privately, we're going to give you our forecasts as where we think and how we're going to make a lot of money on this. So let me go to the next slide and let's just talk about this. I don't want to make this too terribly long. Now, we are not alone. Now, the second greatest economy in the world is falling off a cliff. So you can just see this real estate and manufacturing in China is collapsing. This has a lot to do with the fact that Donald Trump is talking about putting a tariff on all this. So if you want to get something from China, you better do it now. You better go ahead and get it. And they are willing to do anything to get rid of it. They'll take it at a loss. They make a widget and they can't sell any widgets. So what do? They keep lowering prices till someone is willing to pay their widget. Even if they lose money, at least they get some money back from the widget. So it's a great buying opportunity if you want to buy anything from China. They've got some great stuff that's coming out, but their economy is collapsing. And let me just go to my next slide. Not just the manufacturing as well. Look what else is going on. We have 80 million vacant units in China. It's the largest real estate bubble in history. Now, can you just parse that for just a second? 80 million vacant units. Now, you know about the ghost cities of 55,000 units out in the middle of nowhere. This has been on record, but now we're getting real data out. This is where, and of course, the prices are dropping. In China, they don't put money in savings. They don't put money in the stock market. They buy real estate. And it's been very, very good for them. They've been blowing up their economy like crazy. And these units have gone and done very well. And so they kept buying. And now they're dropping. We're hearing stories that these units in China have gone from $400,000 to $50,000. And of course, that wipes out all the equity, wipes out all the bank lending that's on there, all this private equity that's been on there. And it just causes enormous losses. And it's a cascading event. And this is what's happening. If 80 million units that are unsold, and they're still building. They're still keeping people at work, and they continue building. And it's starting to collapse. This is one of our big trading partners and one of the big economies of the world. So remember, we are all interconnected. There isn't anything that we do on our own. We are all connected. Let me go to the next slide. Let's just see what we've got here. Now, this is coming from Zero Hedge. This is a Goldman Sachs Affordability Index. Now, I've been in business for almost 50 years. So let's go back to the great financial crisis. I'm going to tell you, I lived this. I was here in Phoenix, Arizona during the great financial crisis when everybody was so excited. You couldn't find a house for sale for a long time. I've told you this before. 2006, in March 2006, there were less than 3,000 units available, and then in 12 months later, there was 33,000 units available. But right here, right in 2007, the unaffordability index was at the highest we'd ever had in Phoenix. It was just terrible. People kept saying, "Well, how can you sell this?" Because it's unaffordable. And that's exactly correct. And that's when we had 33,000 units available, and the dam broke, and off we went to 2008. And of course, affordability. Do you know why this affordability peaked so high up to here to 140? This meant that 140% of all the people in the United States, 140% over average, could afford the average house in Phoenix. You know why that was? Is because the prices of homes collapsed, just collapsed. And look at this. This is where we're putting all that money in. And again, when we got here, we saw the liquidity stop, and we said, that's it. We're not buying anymore. And we've been kind of bouncing along here on the bottom. We're talking about our plateaus. This is a plateau. And this is very, very similar to the great financial crisis. And so if we want to compare this to this, we are right here. We're right here. And I think we're going to become very affordable. But that's because I think home prices are going to drop. Now, why do I think that? Why do I think that we're going to have home prices drop? Well, 2 million jobs that we don't have. Everybody in debt to their eyeballs. We know that their credit cards are maxed. We know that all their the average person's savings account is depleted. They're tapping into their IRAs and their 401ks. and they're running out of money. When they run out of money, they're going to start defaulting on their properties. And of course, everybody says, well, they've got a lot of equity. I'm going to tell you, a lot of people took this equity out. This is one of the reasons the economy is doing so well. They were taking HELOCs on their properties, taking that equity and buying motorhomes and vacations, fancy cars, putting their kids through luxury schools, and that's catching up to us. And I think that's coming down. So we're going to see prices come down. Let me go to now, and here's one of the reasons. Now, pay attention to this. We've got right now 490,000 finished new homes. Okay, this is from the Federal Reserve electronic date. Last one was November 2024, so less than 45 days ago. We got this 490,000 completely finished. Let me go to my next slide. Look at this. 104 million under construction. And we talked about our other videos where we were talking about the fact that builders would take it up to 95%, so it wasn't finished. It didn't become a finished product. This is what they're gaming their lenders. So a lot of these in the subdivision is 1.4 million are 95% completed, and in like 30 days they can finish them off. But 1.4 million on top of 400, that's 1.8 million of homes available just with the builders, Let me go to the next slide. And 98,000 housing starts. And that also is in November. So we're talking 1 and 5 and 4, about 1.9 million new homes available. We've never ever had that many before. Look at this. This is the great financial crisis. We set a record here, 1.4 million. Now we're even higher. We went up to like 1.6, almost 1.7 million new homes. Now, builders are doing everything they possibly can to get as many as they sold as they can. But this is what I'm expecting. We are mimicking 2005 and 6 and 7, the great financial crisis. It's going to be worse. It's higher. It's going to resolve. I think we're here. So if we want to say, hey, where are we? We're right here. And we might even be starting to slide over right here, because I think we're going to come all the way down and get rid of all those. And we get rid of them, it's going to be catastrophic. Prices are going to be what they're going to do to get rid of these things. Now, I'm comparing this to the great financial crisis. So here we are. You can clearly see the two peaks. There's peak number 1, peak number 2. This is 2007. It was the second peak. And it cratered from here. These are home prices. It cratered. So it just dropped off a rock and came down. Now, typically it's about 4 years. So this is 2, and then about 4 years before it starts to recover, got here, and then of course it went up from here. Now, this is what's going on now. You can see our peaks. Now, again, here's peak 1, here's peak 2, and we are popping right along. We're just kind of plateauing here. It was never exceeded. So Q4 2022, this is where we saw the peak. You go back to my videos, this is where I told my investors that we are done buying at this cycle, and it's coming down. And it's just rolling down a little bit, and it's at 420, 400. Now, this is a fairly good metric that we're using. It's median. It's not an average. We are seeing here in Phoenix a lot of Hong Kong and Chinese money coming here, and it's called a safe haven. And they're paying cash. They buy upper end. They buy, $2 million to $5 million to $10 million properties, and they're just putting money here. They're probably never going to move into them. That distorts the average a lot. So if you get people coming in buying at the upper end paying cash, because they're not affected by interest rates. The lower end is affected by interest rates. And when you have the upper end buying a lot, it distorts it. So we're using the median. It's still pulling the median up, because if you talk to Melody Wright, listen, her stuff, she'll tell you as well that it's the upper end that is really, really active. And it's just a lot of money coming from Europe. It's coming from the Middle East. It's coming from China. It's coming from Asia. We get stuff from Hong Kong and Korea, and they're in Japan. They're bringing their money here. And particularly Japanese, they love to get the money here because their money is having problems, and it's just a safe haven. It's just kind of like it's like a savings account for them. Let me go to my next slide and let's see where we are now. People are asking me what is going to happen. Here's my forecast for 2025 on rates. We are here. They come down and then they pop back up. That has happened, and then they keep coming down, and then they do this. So this was in the 1980s. I went through this as well. I saw this. I can verify it. So you have rates. Everybody says, oh, the rates are too high. It's causing problems. And it certainly caused problems. Housing just stopped and rates came down. Then as they picked up a little bit, rates came up again, thinking that, well, we're going to stabilize. And then it never did. And then it cratered. That is what's going to happen. Now, this is the current. We are here. So we peaked. We're coming down. We stabilized. We got a little bit of activities. Rates came down. Rates came back up again. They came back down. They've come back up again. And I think we are probably somewhere right around here compared to the mid-cycle correction, 1980s. A very brutal correction. Now, during the great financial crisis, you can see the same pattern. Here it is. 2007, affordability problem. And then it came down a little bit and it got better. We sold a few houses. It got worse. It got better. Everybody got real excited and then it just cratered. And I think we're probably somewhere here at the great financial crisis because I think we are going here. Now, it's not going to be for very long, but we are going to have a window and I think we're going here. I think we're going down. I think we could easily see 4.5%, 5%, maybe. Depends on what happens to the US dollar. I don't think we're going down to threes again, but we're certainly going to go down. And it's going to stimulate either something's going to have to be a policy response, and then we're going to have huge inflation. So we're going to have kind of a window with which to buy these things. And we are going to make for. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to make a fortune. And my clients we're going to do incredibly well. We're going to time this. We have a timing model, and the timing model has been just unbelievably just accurate. It's just been crazily accurate. It's just been really, really good. Let me go to my next slide. See, I can't finish this up a little bit here. Now I'm using this from Zero Hedge and the Real Investment Advice. They have excellent, and this is going to come over, is that corrections are always just as brutal on the way up or on the way down as they were exhilarating on the way up. And you can see, I'm using the stock market to this, and this is just accurate. Now we're way up here on the stock market. We're going to come down. Same with what's going on with my housing. I'm not showing any housing charts today. Now, the public buys, I'm going to tell you, we are the last to know. We are always the last to know. And I'm telling you right now that we're peaked. And probably all the markets have peaked. There's no reason for you to be invested 100% of the time, 100%. There's such a thing as taking some risk off the market. You might talk to your financial advisor and say, how much risk am I taking here? And how much do I need? So maybe you want to, depending on who you are, maybe you're just fine with saying, hey, I'm just going to take whatever happens. It's fine. I work with a lot of baby boomers. I'm going to tell you, I have baby boomers crying in my office because they don't have enough money. And this is a travesty. We're going to do something else on this. I'm going to do another video talking about the travesty coming for baby boomers. But if you're a baby boomer and you've got 80, 90% of your money in the stock market and market drops 40%, you are going to be one unhappy camper because we don't have time. We're not in it for a long run because we don't have a long run. So you need to think, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? You need income. You have to have income. So maybe you should start thinking, if you're going to be in the market, maybe you should get some income producing stock. Go talk to your financial advisor and just talk to them and say, hey, what kind of risk am I running? Let me go to my next slide. Now, this is me. You can reach me here. We can talk in private. A lot of things I can't put out on the on YouTube as to where we're at with this. I'm sorry I made this too terribly long. If you like my videos, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe. If you would like to call us, typically it's an hour and a half, 2 hours, cost you, $200-300, depending on how long we go. And we can go over your situation because we are going to have a terrible, terrible economy coming. It's going to be awful. People are going to say this is one for the history books. It is. We're going to reconcile all the problems that Mr. Trump is getting. Thank goodness for Mr. Trump. I think it's going to be way better in 3 years or 4 years. In the meantime, I think we've got a lot of problems that have to be resolved. Those that are prepared are going to be part of the solution. We are going to buy these properties at very good prices. We're going to provide housing for people who are having trouble that need housing. We're going to do that. We're going to give them a very good product, be very fair with their rent, and it'd be good for both them and for us. If I can help in any way, you know how to reach me. My very, very best to you guys. Bye-bye now.